great opportunity.
I am very satisfied with today's class. Joseph, guidance, and my friends over there, I had the best time. I think I am a little more confident about cooking alone now, and I might even try it at home.
Terrible. As it's the first class, going into it, I didn't really know what to expect. New people, new concept, but fundamentally it's something what I love, which is showcasing Korean ingredients. And it's kind of what I do on a daily basis, whether it's students who don't know how to cook or our chefs who need training. It felt very similar. Sometimes things on the outside look a bit complicated, but if you break it step by step, you can make it approachable. So feeling really positive about the first class, and yeah, more to come.
The moment we wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that Washington is ready to respond if Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis move to impose a blockade in the Red Sea. The threat comes after the group declared a naval blockade against Saudi Arabia, potentially opening a new front in the U.S.-Iran conflict and raising fresh concerns about global energy supplies. South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun is set to attend ASEAN-related meetings in the Philippines, where top diplomats from Southeast Asia and other major powers have gathered for a series of security talks. Cho is expected to meet his American and Japanese counterparts to discuss North Korea and economic security issues. The heads of Korean tech giants Samsung Electronics, SK Group, and Naver are expected to meet Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang in the United States as early as Friday. The talks follow Huang's visit to Seoul in early June and are expected to highlight Nvidia's deepening partnership with Korean companies. We begin this morning with President Lee Jae-myung's remarks at a cabinet meeting, which signaled that tax measures could be part of his administration's latest effort to rein in on South Korea's overheated housing market. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin starts us off.
With the government expected to unveil a new package of housing measures later this month, President Lee Jae-myung offered fresh clues about what could be included.
속도감 있는 공급 대책과 더불어서 현실에 부합하는 실수요자 지원 대책을 촘촘하게 마련하겠습니다. 조세 제도 역시 국민의 상식과 눈높이에 기초해서 공정하고 합리적으로 정비될 수 있게 하겠습니다.
Korea has been grappling with an overheated housing market driven by property speculation that has pushed prices in the capital region to record highs. What stood out on Tuesday was the president mentioning a tax system reform as a key solution. While the administration has so far focused on regulating multiple homeowners, the upcoming measures are expected to directly impact single homeowners. One option under consideration is raising taxes on what the government would classify as ultra-high value homes. Currently, single home owners can receive the same maximum property tax deduction regardless of how much their property is worth. The proposal is expected to be discussed at a policy forum chaired by President Lee on Thursday before the government finalizes the measures. Also at Tuesday's cabinet meeting, Lee called for additional safeguards for single-stock leveraged exchange-traded funds tied to Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, which offer 2 times the stock's average daily return.
정책 당국 입장에서야 완벽하게 하는 게 어렵긴 했지만 어쨌든 신속하게 또 필요한 대응 조치는 좀 과감하게 하도록 하십시오.
Last week, financial authorities announced stronger investment rules for the products following steep losses since their launch in late May. The new rules triple the minimum deposit requirement to 30 million won, or roughly $20,000, all in cash. Whether it's housing or financial markets, President Lee is signaling that his administration is prepared to strengthen protection where it believes excessive speculation is putting ordinary people at risk. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, over in the Middle East, U.S. President Donald Trump vowed action in response to the Houthis' potential shutdown of the Red Sea. He also threatened to strike Iran's nuclear facility soon. Our Kim Jun-ho reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that the United States would respond if Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis moved to blockade commercial shipping in the Red Sea.
So far, it hasn't happened, might happen, but we take care of things. If something like that happens, we take care of it, you know.
The Houthis declared a naval blockade of Saudi Arabia on Monday, threatening to attack any vessel loading or unloading Saudi oil. That's already disrupting traffic, with 2 tankers carrying Saudi crude to Asia reversing course in the Red Sea on Tuesday. Since the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the Red Sea has served as the main alternative route for crude exports. But the latest disruption is raising fresh supply concerns. Global oil prices gained more than 2% on Tuesday, pushing Brent crude above $91 a barrel. Trump later said the U.S. will be hitting Iran's Pickaxe Mountain area pretty soon. The fortified Iranian nuclear site is under construction and buried deep underground.
And honestly, they haven't seen anything yet. We've been nice. We've been nice. We'll be hitting that area probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it.
The war is taking a growing financial toll on Washington. While defending the White House's supplemental funding request before a Senate committee on Tuesday, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth revealed that the U.S. campaign against Iran has already cost $37.5 billion. The figure includes projected costs through September. He said $67 billion of the White House's $87.6 billion supplemental funding request was needed to help cover the costs of the war. Meanwhile, Iran continues its retaliatory strikes on U.S. military facilities across the region. The Revolutionary Guard said on Tuesday they had hit a tactical radar array and other systems in Kuwait, claiming the targets had been successfully neutralized. Kim Junong, Arirang News.
Seoul's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun will attend ASEAN-related meetings in Manila from Wednesday. He will meet U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi, with North Korea regional development and economic security expected to top the agenda. The meeting comes roughly 2 weeks after their previous talks at the NATO summit in Ankara. Cho will begin Wednesday's schedule with bilateral talks with Australia and Thailand before attending the South Korea ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. He will meet his counterparts from New Zealand, Brunei, and the Philippines later in the day. On Thursday, Cho will attend the ASEAN +3 Foreign Ministers meeting, followed by the ASEAN Regional Forum and the East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting. He will conclude his schedule by meeting his counterparts from the Mekong countries. So foreign ministers from the 11-member ASEAN member states and major partners have gathered in Manila. This diplomatic gathering in Southeast Asia this week takes place against a backdrop of instability beyond the region, since the United States and Iran resumed open conflict, raising energy security concerns as well as inflation and global growth. For more on this, we're joined today by Professor Cho Won-duk, Assistant Professor at the Department of Indo-Pacific Studies at the Korean National Diplomatic Academy. Professor Cho, thanks for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you.
So what do you think will be the main focus of this year's ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, and what should we be watching for?
This year's meeting comes at a very tense moment. So the major thing is really ASEAN unity under pressure and instabilities. The Philippines, as this year's chair, opened by saying that in a world full of uncertainty, no single country can face this uncertainty and unpredictability alone. So I'd point to three things to watch these meetings. First, it is the Middle East. The resumed conflict between the United States and Iran has raised fears about shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, and Southeast Asia depends heavily on that route for its oil. So expect the ministers to push hard on energy security, including a regional fuel sharing plan and a new ASEAN power grid. Second, I think it's Myanmar. This is where the ASEAN bloc is most divided. For example, Thailand wants to bring Myanmar back into the ASEAN, but others say not while the repression continues in Myanmar. So watch closely whether they can agree on anything beyond the same old statements. Then lastly, the South China Sea. As you know, just 2 days ago, Chinese and Philippines forces clashed again near the second Thomas shore in the South China Sea. And with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Foreign Ministers Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov all coming to Manila this week, I think that some discussions about that may happen in the sideline meetings. And so, therefore, in short, watch how ASEAN handles this outside pressure while trying to hold itself together this week.
Right, and South Korea's foreign minister will also be there at the meetings in Manila, speaking with ASEAN leaders. So why do ASEAN countries matter so much to South Korea, both strategically and economically?
I think that's very important question because for Korea, ASEAN isn't just one more reason in the world. It's becoming a central pillar of our foreign policy and economic security. Let me start with the economic side. ASEAN is already one of the Korea's biggest trading partners and investment destinations. And the two sides are now aiming even higher. Under the new Korea-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership vision, they want yearly trade to reach $300 billion and the 15 million people traveling back and forth each year. Korea is also sharing what it does at best. For example, AI, culture and content, power grid and capacity building, and so on, to build full future growth together. So this isn't just about the selling products. It's about the building long-term partnerships. Now the strategic side. Just to look at where ASEAN sits on the map. It sits on top of some of the world's most important sea routes, including the Strait of Malacca, where most of Korea's energy coming through. So when we see tensions in the South China Sea, I think that Korea feels it right away because we depend on those routes to keep our economy running. So ASEAN matters to Korea on two levels at once. Economically, it's a market and also a growth partner. Strategically, it's the sea lifeline that keeps our energy and trade flows. That's why Korea is investing so much in this relationship right now.
I see. And foreign ministers of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan are set to hold a trilateral meeting on the sidelines there. What issues do you think are likely to be discussed there?
Yes, this trilateral meeting is one of the most closely watched moments of the week. As mentioned before, on the 22nd today in Manila, Foreign Minister Joyan will meet with the Secretary Rubio and Japan's Foreign Minister Motegi. And here is the context. This comes just 2 weeks after they last met on the sideline of the NATO summit. So the three countries are keeping up a very steady pace of talks. I'd expect the three main themes. First, I think this is a standout item this time, nuclear energies. At the NATO meeting, the three countries signed an agreement to work together on small modular reactors, or SMRs. They are a newer, smaller type of a nuclear plant. So in Manila, they are expected to focus on following through on that deal. Second, and the most important, is North Korea. And this year, there is a new angles. North Korea is moving much closer to both China and Russia. Just recently, its foreign minister, Chey traveled to Moscow and met President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov. And the North Korea and China are marking 65 years of their friendship treaty with high-level visits. So the three ministers are expected to share their assessment of this Pyongyang, Beijing, Moscow alignment and partnerships. And lastly, the wider world, especially Middle East, the tensions there are heating up again. So that's expected to land on the table too among three ministers.
Right, we'll have to see how the meeting plays out. All right, Professor Cho, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Following the overnight rally in tech stocks on Wall Street, Korean stocks posted strong gains this morning, extending the upward momentum from the previous day. The benchmark KOSPI even triggered a buy-side sidecar, soaring over 5% shortly after opening. As of 9:20 a.m., the KOSPI was trading at 7,145, up nearly 6% from the previous session. The rally is largely being led by market heavyweights, with Samsung Electronics jumping over 5% and SK Hynix rising over 8%. Silicon Valley could host an unprecedented gathering of the world's biggest AI leaders this week, with the heads of Samsung, SK Group, Naver, and Nvidia expected to meet. The talks are expected to focus on strengthening AI infrastructure cooperation as Nvidia rolls out its next-generation AI computing platform. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-yong, SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won, and Naver founder Lee Hae-jin are expected to meet Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang in Silicon Valley later this week in what could become one of the most significant gatherings of leaders in the global AI industry. According to business sources on Wednesday, a roundtable is being arranged for as early as July 24th, with discussions expected to focus on expanding cooperation in AI infrastructure. The meeting could also include OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, bringing together executives from companies that lead key segments of artificial intelligence, from advanced memory chips and graphics processors to generative AI services. If held, it would mark the first time leaders from the world's top AI hardware and software companies have gathered in one place to discuss collaboration across the industry's supply chain. The planned talks would also highlight Nvidia's growing partnership with South Korean companies. Jensen Huang visited Seoul in early June, meeting executives from Samsung, SK, Hyundai Motor, LG, and Naver. Another high-level meeting just over a month later would underscore Korea's increasingly important role in the global AI ecosystem. The gathering comes as Nvidia accelerates deployment of its next-generation AI computing platform. The company says systems powered by its new Vera Rubin architecture have entered full-scale production and are already being installed by major customers. Nvidia says OpenAI plans to deploy the platform at scale by the third quarter, while Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, Meta, Dell Technologies, and CoreWeave are also integrating the new systems into their AI data centers. Named after pioneering American astronomer Vera Rubin, the new chip architecture marks Nvidia's next major leap in AI computing and is designed to handle the rapidly growing data demands of advanced AI training and inference. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Korea's producer price index, a key gauge of future consumer inflation, remained flat in June from the previous month to end a 9-month streak of gains, though it rose 8.6% year-on-year. According to preliminary data from the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, coal and petroleum products dropped around 5% last month due to lower oil prices, while computer, electronic, and optical devices rose about 2%, driven by steady demand. However, the Bank of Korea notes that producer prices are still showing a high growth rate year-on-year, and secondary effects from oil price hikes are expected to persist. BTS global hit Dynamite is enjoying a renewed surge in the United States following the 2026 FIFA World Cup final, as the group took to the stage for the halftime show on Sunday, performing the song before a worldwide audience. According to Billboard on Tuesday, citing Luminate data, U.S. streams of Dynamite jumped 13% in a single day to 160,000. Other songs featured during the show also saw gains. The official World Cup song by Shakira and Burna Boy rose 25% to 979,000 streams, while Justin Bieber's Everything Hallelujah posted the biggest increase, climbing 34% to 130,000. Madonna's Music also gained 6%. South Korea's Daejeon City has been selected to host the 2029 Invictus Games, an international sporting event for injured military veterans. This will mark the first time the Games are hosted in Asia, raising expectations for Korea to expand the event's presence across the continent. Our Park Gun-woo reports.
For the first time, the Invictus Games are coming to Asia. The Korean central city of Daejeon secured the right to host the 2029 Games after winning a unanimous vote over San Diego in the US and Aalborg, Denmark. Evaluators credited Korea's closely coordinated effort between the central government, local authorities, and the veteran community, united behind one mission, helping wounded service members recover and rebuild their lives.
When I competed, I had to go all the way to Germany, so it's meaningful that Korea will now be able to welcome athletes. I hope it helps more people recognize how veterans are honored here. After being injured, many service members feel like their lives are over, but I eventually realized it wasn't the end, but the beginning.
Founded by the UK's Prince Harry in 2014, the Invictus Games use sport to support the physical, psychological, and social recovery of wounded service members. And the Daejeon Games will mark its 9th edition. But despite its growing global reach, South Korea remains the only Asian country participating so far. The foundation believes hosting the Games in Korea could encourage more Asian nations to join.
Within the Asian context, it's the fact that, there is a lot of conflict going on and a lot of veterans around that aren't necessarily getting the the respect and treatment, the great determination would be that we help change attitudes across Asia as well. I know there will be millions of people in Asia be watching the games in Daejeon.
The 2029 Games are expected to draw thousands of athletes, families, and supporters from 26 countries. Among the participating nations are 12 countries that fought alongside South Korea or provided medical support during the Korean War, including the US, Australia, and Colombia. Daejeon is also stepping up preparations to ensure the Games are a success.
We're expecting around 3,000 athletes and family members. We'll carefully prepare every aspect from sports venues to accommodation to ensure the Games are a success. With our experience hosting a major international event recently, we're confident.
The countdown has already begun, and in 2029, Daejeon will become the first Asian city to host the Invictus Games, showing how sport can help wounded service members recover and rebuild their lives. 박건우, Arirang News, Daejeon.
Good morning, I'm Chey and this is The World Now. In Ukraine, President Vladimir Zelenskyy has fired General Alexander Syrskyi as commander-in-chief of the armed forces and named Mihailo Drapati as his replacement following days of mass protests in Kyiv and other cities demanding Syrskyi's removal. It's the second time in the past year Zelenskyy has reversed course under pressure from protests after rallies last summer forced him to undo a law weakening Ukraine's anti-corruption watchdogs. The crisis began last week when Zelenskyy fired his defense minister Mikhailo Fedorov. Fedorov then publicly accused Syrskyi of blocking military reforms and fostering a Soviet-style command culture. Protesters framed Fedorov's removal as Zelenskyy siding with the military's old guard. Zelenskyy said he made the decision after a series of meetings with military commanders. In Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney warned that he would consider all options if the new tariffs that Trump threatened go ahead. Carney's comments come after he and Trump agreed on Tuesday to intensify trade negotiations. President Trump on Monday unveiled 50% tariffs on a wide range of Canadian goods, citing what he called discriminatory treatment of American cars, alcohol, and dairy. Asked whether the tariffs were linked to his earlier comments blaming Canada for wildfire smoke, Trump said, quote, "No, that's separate." The U.S. Trade Representative's office says the tariffs would apply to nearly $20 billion of Canadian imports, which is about 5% of what the U.S. imported from Canada last year. Carney said Canadian provinces should only lift their bans on U.S. alcohol as part of a broader trade deal. In Chile, week-long rainstorms have killed at least 10 people and triggered flash floods that have cut off more than 100,000 others as authorities race to reach those stranded. Chile's president declared a state of emergency on Monday in the Atacama and Coquimbo regions in the country's usually arid north. The storms there have destroyed dozens of homes and displaced thousands of people. Officials warn that swollen rivers will remain a threat even after the rain eases. Meteorologists attribute the rain to the return of El Niño, a naturally occurring Pacific Ocean phenomenon that brings extreme weather to the region. In France, lawmakers have approved a ban on social media access for children under 15 as concerns grow worldwide over social media's impact on kids' health and safety. France becomes the first country in Europe to adopt such a ban following Australia, where a ban for under 16s on platforms including Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube took effect in December. Under the new law, children under 15 won't be able to open a social media account starting September 1st, and platforms will have 4 months to close existing accounts. Platforms will also be required to use age verification approved by France's privacy regulator.
Hot and humid conditions will continue across the country today. Afternoon highs have been hovering below 30 degrees Celsius in the capital area for nearly a week due to the rain and cloudy skies, but that high humidity is making everyone feeling sluggish. Meanwhile, heat wave alerts remain in place for most of the southern provinces with an expected high of 37 degrees Celsius in Pohang in Gyeongsang-Pukto province. The heaviest rain bands have moved away, but Central Korea can still expect to see 5 to 60 millimeters throughout the day. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 30 degrees, Daegu and Gyeongju at 35 degrees, Jeju topping out at 34 degrees, with most of the island experiencing more than 2 weeks of tropical nights. More monsoon showers are expected nationwide tomorrow, and the combination of hot and humid days and warm nights will continue for most regions.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.
안녕하세요. 저는 반크의 정희성 연구원입니다. 반크는 전 세계 외국인에게 한국을 알리기 위해 만들어진 사이버 외교사들 딴이죠. 저도 그중 한 사람이고요. 여러분들의 높은 관심 속에 수많은 한국 오류 정보를 바로잡을 수 있었는데요. 그런데 한국 역사와 관련된 오류 정보들이 여전히 눈에 띄더라고요. 잘못된 정보는 바로 고쳐야겠죠? 지금부터 제가 한국 역사에 대한 제대로 된 정보를 바로 알려드리겠습니다. 고조선에서부터 현재 이르기까지 한국은 5,000년 역사를 이어온 나라입니다. 그 긴 시간 동안 왕조가 바뀌고 나라 이름이 바뀌긴 했지만 한국은 독자적인 문화와 전통을 가진 독립국가였는데요. 1910년 한국은 국권을 상실하고 일제 치하에 들어가게 됐는데요. 한민족은 1919년 3.1운동을 포함해 여러 차례 대규모 독립운동을 전개했습니다. 뿐만 아니라 임시정부 수립, 광복궁 활동 등을 통해 끊임없이 일제에 항거했어요. (1945년 8월 15일) 한국은 해방을 맞이했는데요. 하지만 한국전쟁 이후 한반도는 남북한으로 분단됐어요. 3년간의 전쟁 끝에 1953년 7월 27일 남북한은 정전협정을 맺게 됩니다. 그 후 남한은 경제발전을 거듭해왔고 지금은 세계적으로 한류 열풍을 일으키며 문화 강국으로 우뚝 설 수 있었는데요. 힘들고 어려웠던 시절을 넘어 위기를 극복한 끝에 오늘날 한국은 선진국 계열에 들어설 수 있었답니다. 우리의 역사를 세계에 바로 알리는 일, 문화강국 대한민국의 위상을 더욱 높이는 길입니다. 한국 바로 알리기, 여러분도 함께 해주세요.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, July 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki-hoon.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, and also Cheska's with us.
Happy Wednesday, everyone.
Happy Wednesday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. We're already halfway through the week, and we're taking on one of the toughest relationship questions out there to get over that midweek slump. So everyone has different deal breakers when it comes to love and marriage. So here's today's question. We're starting off kind of strong. So is cheating an automatic deal breaker in a marriage for you, Kyun?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Firmly.
Yeah, firmly. Cheating doesn't happen accidentally, nor because that person was unaware of it. It comes with pure intention, and even if you know it's the wrong thing to do, you've already done it, which already shows that, you've made a big mistake.
Yes.
So having to live with someone who has already lost faith in you and vice versa, it's only going to be a build-up of more hate to come, and a continuous arguments and constant conflict, which I don't like personally. And I don't think I can see my significant other in the same light once I find out that she has cheated on me. For my sake, to be honest, and my mental well-being. And so I think ending the marriage seems like the right choice for everyone that's involved.
I wonder, do you think having kids or having for just yourself or any other people,
I think that's another story, because once you have kids, it makes the decision even harder, because you think about the child first. And I don't want to go there, to be honest, but I'm talking about before having a child. So it's better to actually end the marriage before you have a child. But if you do have a child, I think maybe give them a second chance. Who knows?
That really would make a difference. But I get why. For some people, cheating isn't the biggest deal breaker. But like you said, I think what you said about it being so intentional makes it feel like an ultimate betrayal. So what are your thoughts on this, Cheska?
150%. I would add just a 50% more to what Ki-hoon said, because I agree with everything he said. But just to add on a little bit more, I think for me, it's more than an emotional betrayal, because for me, it shows the capacity of the persons to make decisions in life. Because usually when you cheat, I think it shows a lot of the person's character, how that person performs under pressure, stress, temptation, and like what kind of decision they make or choices. So surprisingly, I would be more okay with someone falling out of love with me and then tells me that they want to move on, rather than trying to maintain the relationship through cheating or doing something that I don't know of. Because I think that can be very normal. But cheating shows the capacity for the persons to hold many, many challenges in life. And I would very much not want to continue my life and go through challenges and difficulties with someone I can't trust. Yeah.
So like you say, if they didn't break it off when they should have, it's almost like it shows that they're very inconsiderate and very selfish to do that. So, and now it's time for our weekly debate. So today we're taking a closer look at one of the most controversial issues in marriage: infidelity, and whether it should have legal consequences. So how do countries today deal with adultery through the law, Kyun?
So in South Korea, up until 2015, adultery was deemed unlawful here, and that carried a prison sentence of up to 2 years without any fine. However, it was abolished on the grounds that marriage and family life cannot be maintained through legal coercion, while at the same time violating one's sexual autonomy, privacy, and freedom. Now, looking at other countries around the world, Korea isn't the only country to have abolished this law. In fact, it is actually one of the later countries to have followed suit. So if we take a look at the screen, adultery was abolished from 1937 in Sweden, 1947 in Japan, 1968 in Germany, and 1975 in France, and in some states in the US. While China, regulations do exist, but there are no adultery punishments. So we can see that Korea was actually one of the newer countries to actually abolish this law. However, adultery remains a criminal offense in some countries governed by Islamic law or influenced by Catholic traditions, where it may be treated as a serious offense. So it really depends on the cultural and, of course, the religious background of countries.
Right, so it's interesting how attitudes have shifted from treating adultery as a crime that also would lead to also jail time to seeing it more as a private matter, although that still isn't the case everywhere. And that brings us to the bigger question and our first debate question for today's discussion of where the law should draw the line between private relationships and public responsibility. And our panelists here have their OX paddles ready, so let's put it to a vote and see where they stand on this issue. So the first debate question we have is, should infidelity be punishable by law? Yes or no? Jessica, do you want to go first?
It's a yes for me.
Yes, it should be. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Oh, cute. It's a no. I would be very interested to hear it. But for me, I think, as we mentioned, there are some that argue that there is a reason that marriage is a standing legal and social institution, and it is almost a contract. So if there isn't a punishment by law, it shouldn't have a special place like a legal status that it has in terms of marriage. And also because, as Kyun mentioned, since it was abolished as a criminal offense, now you can only file civil charges, and it can go up to about 10 million won to 30 million won for the victim to charge the offended. And that is only around $6,700 US to maximum 20K, I believe. And personally, I believe it's not so much about the money, but it's about the time, the emotions spent, and the resources that you created together to build the relationship. So I think the bigger question is, what is the necessary legal protection for something as legal status as a marriage when it is broken is the important question for me personally.
Are you arguing that we should bring back the imprisonment of more than 2 years perhaps?
I think it's not so much about the imprisonment, but I don't think there should be limits.
On the civil damages,
yes.
So you feel like getting rid of the punishment where they get prison time, that can be abolished, but you just want the amount.
Yeah, and it's so difficult because it's not so much about the criminal charges being brought back, but I wish there was more weight put on the damage that is being done when a relationship is broken, because people treat it as more as an emotional betrayal, but I think it's more than that. I think it is an investment that you put in together. Right. It's like a business.
Yeah, and also time goes into it too. So you said no.
You know, Cheska has a good point.
Thank you.
On the other hand,
yes.
regulating and punishing someone in their private sexual life and personal emotions through criminal law seems like an excessive exercise of state power and violates the right to self-determination. Now, it's actually pretty hard to put a price tag on someone's emotional suffering through just cheating compared to other crimes such as murder, assault, fraud, etc. And of course, marriage comes with great commitment and responsibility. Therefore, it should not be done with just emotional attachment. So I feel that couples should be mature enough to come to a resolution themselves without the help of the law and legal punishments with fines, of course. So as we see already, many countries have already adopted abolishing adultery, as it seemed too much of intervening in people's personal lives, which highlights that this particular issue is not something to be dealt in a court.
Right. So one side argues that marriage is a legal commitment that deserves legal protection, while the other believes the government shouldn't interfere in people's private lives. So it's a debate between protecting the institution of marriage and protecting individual freedom. So we also wanted to hear what our viewers think on this. So we ran a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel asking, should adultery be punishable by law? And here's what the results showed. So nearly 2/3, or 62%, believe adultery should be punishable by law, while 38% disagreed. So looking at the results, it seems many people still see marriage as a commitment that deserves legal protection. And while the legal consequences of adultery have changed, public opinion is often a different story. So how is adultery viewed in Korean society today since the laws changed in 2015?
Yeah, so while culturally, I think, depending on the culture and, religion, people view cheating sort of differently. In Korea, I think it is quite highly unforgiving because especially in one survey, Koreans actually ranked infidelity and cheating as the #1 most unforgiving moral behavior. And if we take a look at the screen, we can see this a lot more clearly. So interestingly, some argue that since adultery was decriminalized in 2015, public opinion has become even harsher because criminal punishment is no longer an opinion. Many believe that the, quote, court of the people has to be a lot stronger. And now people actually actually expose the affair publicly, and they reveal the identities and profiles of the people involved, and even sort of file official complaints at the workplace. Because I think before, a lot of Koreans try to put it under the carpet, try to be a little bit more hush-hush, even if they were the victims. But now they're becoming more public, and now people are actually making it so that the cheaters will be known. And I think one of the opinion is because it was decriminalized, people feel like they deserve more justice from the opinions of the people. So they want it to be out there so that they can get the responses and the feedback. Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, we just saw from the poll, the public opinion.
Yes.
The majority believes they should be criminally punished. So I see why that's happening. So even without the criminal punishment, social consequence can be severe, with public opinion often being the harshest judge. And that raises another question about where those consequences should end, leading to our second debate question of the day. And once again, our panelists will use their OX paddles to cast their votes. So, should someone be fired from their job for committing adultery, yes or no? So this time, Kim, do you want to go first?
I think I knew your answer.
Again, by the same logic.
Go on.
Extramarital affairs should only remain between those who are involved, without the whole public finding out. You know, if someone at work committed adultery and in turn affected their work performance, damaged the company's image, brand image, and negatively influenced the morale of their co-workers, then I think it's fair for the company to actually fire the person. But, you know, if the person continues to fulfill their duties with no disruption, then private affairs should be kept private and untouched. Now, if the company dismisses a person purely based on what they personally think is wrong, then that's considered abuse of power, which is another debatable moral issue that will arise. That's what I think, Cheska.
Okay. I may be actually more Korean than I think I am, but I actually do think there should be some punishment and even dismissal when it comes to affairs like this, because as I mentioned earlier, I think there is a very fine line between what is a public affair and a private matter. So when some people are held higher standard and ethical standards in their career, such as people who are in legal forces or people who are in education or public officials, then I think cheating demonstrates their decision-making capacity and their honesty and integrity, which they are held very highly for their position and the job. And as Kyun mentioned, it can damage the brand of the officials and the position as well. So I would actually think dismissal could be in place. And also, there was actually a case where a police officer was involved in an extramarital affair and was actually dismissed from his position for that cause. Yeah.
Right. So one side sees adultery as a private matter that shouldn't affect employment, while the other argues that trust and integrity matters, especially in professions held to higher ethical standards. So we want to hear directly from our viewers on this as well. So we ran another poll asking, should public officials or teachers then be dismissed for adultery? And here's what the results showed. So the results showed a clear majority, with 66% voting yes and 34% voting no. So it looks like many viewers appear to believe that public officials and teachers have a greater responsibility to uphold public trust, both at home and in their free time, and their personal lives as well. But what about people whose lives are already in the public eye? And that brings us to our final debate question for today's topic. Should celebrities then get canceled if they commit adultery? We know there's a big cancel culture going on these days.
Yes. This one is tricky, but I'm going to stick with they should be, only because, and I grew up in America, so this is very Korean of me, but I do strongly believe that fame is a privilege, not a right. So the fact that they are earning, income and sort of status through people's support and sort of emotional and even physical donations, I think they are held to a higher standard and accountability when it comes to moral wrongdoings. And also, public celebrities sort of influence a lot of young people's behavior and also maybe their standard of ethics. So I do think they should be held at a higher standard for that reason.
I see. So what's your take on this?
I'm on the other side today. I'm very against just today for some reason.
It's okay. It makes it interesting.
Yeah, it does.
And I'd love to hear your opinion.
I think moral failings certainly do deserve criticism.
Yes.
the public response these days seems excessively harsh at times and punitive at the same time. Now with the widespread use of social media where people can pretty much leave any kind of personal hateful comments
actually agree with you
that actually
on that.
cross the line to really hurt the other person.
Yeah.
And in South Korea, certain film directors and business leaders have faced negative criticism from the public opinion for years. And I believe the criticism has perhaps gone a little too far because it's already happened, 5-10 years ago, and they're still talking about it because it's gossip, right? And people like gossip. And I also believe that there should be a clear distinction between a person's professional achievements and their private personal lives. So although celebrities need a good public image, of course, to maintain their level of popularity, at the end of the day, they're just humans with similar flaws just like us. And whether you're a fan or just a consumer of whatever their product is, I think you have the choice to just not watch, not buy, boycott it. So I think at the end of the day, just live and let live.
So one side believes public figures should be held to a higher moral standard, while the other argues that those who make mistakes shouldn't face a lifelong punishment. So to close out today's discussion, let's hear your personal and final takeaways on this. So what stood out to you most from today's discussion, Cheska?
I think first of all, I really love the debate because we were on both opposite sides, so I got to hear different arguments. But I think at the end of the day, the question that I still have is, where do you draw the line between something that is personal and private versus it becoming public? Because I still believe that a lot of the things that humans make, either it's a mistake or a decision, it shows the capacity of their decision-making process. So for me, while cheating is a personal matter, it does show the person's capacity to perform other works in more public places or in official settings. So I still would hold cheating at a higher standard and would like my colleagues and my bosses to be held at a higher standard as well, as I hold myself at a higher standard.
And your future husband as well.
Please do.
Don't cheat. Please. Yeah, I mean, I do agree. You mentioned several times that it's about character, and especially like public figures or celebrities or even teachers are the ones, especially teachers are supposed to teach you moral standards, but if they're not following those basic standards of, being faithful.
Exactly.
I feel like it'd be hard for me as a student to really take their word to heart.
Right, and especially if they're leaders at a company or even a country.
Right,
how do I trust that person to not fall or crumble under certain pressure and temptation?
And like celebrities also often say like they're not supposed to be role models, but they're in the public eye. People look up to them, so it is what it is. What are your thoughts on this, Kyun?
Honestly, no one's perfect,
yes,
but everyone strives for perfection, which it's common for everyone, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but it's a very difficult thing to achieve. And the saying, what goes around comes around, is something that I try to follow every day, and it's a good constant reminder that good things happen to good people, and obviously bad things can happen to bad people. So trying to be a good person first before expecting the other person to be good to me could be the first step to becoming a person who can actually meet the right person, especially when it comes to marriage. It's a huge decision in your life, a massive commitment that comes that follows from that decision onward.
And a contract.
And a contract as well, but I don't think you shouldn't just be binded by that contract. It goes beyond that. It's all about trust. When you go through your lows, can the other person be with you next to you, and vice versa? Because we only see the highs during relationships. So I think marriage is a different story. You go through everything in life, and are you going to be that supportive person? Because if you are, I'm sure the other person will be in return. So I think, like what Cheska said, it's kind of like a business deal as well. It's like kind of a give and take kind of relationship at the same time. But at the end of the day, it's all about trust. And do I trust this person? And in order for me to trust that person, I need to be a trustworthy person. So I think it works both ways. And I hope everyone falls into a healthy relationship and ends up marrying the right person, just like me.
If not, karma is really real. Oh, yes, well said. So karma is real, so don't do things that you don't want to happen to you. So infidelity isn't just a personal issue, it also raises difficult questions about law, ethics, and public expectations. And as you've heard today, there is no easy answer to where accountability should begin or end. And while opinions remain sharply divided, one thing is quite certain: it's a topic that continues to challenge our ideas ideas of justice, privacy, and responsibility. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 in Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Kyun.
Thank you for having me.
And also Cheska.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully the only cheating you'll experience is on your next cheat day. We are
News Generation.
Across borders, surging forward without limits, Korea. Korean culture has moved beyond a passing trend, becoming a force that colors the world. And perhaps its origins trace much further back into our own history. The true roots where this vast chronicle began, where the essence of K-power and the spirit of our people are recorded. In the 17 seconds you casually pass by, thousands of years are breathing within. The moment your gaze lingers, and your curiosity is stirred, the radiant faces of our history begin to awaken.